Education Policy 2020. Before we begin, let me tell you a little about Professor Nangia, because his little is also equal to someone's life's accomplishments, really. Professor Dr. Vinay Kumar Nangia is a distinguished alumnus of Banaras Hindu University with over 48 years of managerial experience, including at senior and top levels in India and overseas in the industry of banking and education. So he's well traveled across five continents in areas of business, training, pleasure, cultural familiarization, and also so has worked in rural, semi-urban, and metropolitan areas in the government, public and private sectors during his career, including having worked in 3 countries. Ladies and gentlemen, Sir has held the position of Head of Department in IIT Roorkee thrice, Emeritus Professor at NSUT Dwarka, New Delhi, Managing Director and CEO of an investment and finance company in Mumbai, Senior VP at SR Group in Mumbai, Group Directors of an industrial house at Lagos, Nigeria, and an international banker at Singapore. And if that wasn't enough, he also has to his credit large number of articles published in national and international referee journals. The list is very long, so I intend to skip that. More importantly, Sir has been honored as the Man of Excellence Award in 2022, Glory of India Award in 2017, Lifetime Achievement in Business Education Award in the year 2015, Shiksha Ratan Puraskar in 2014, and Devang Mehta Business School Award for being the best professor in general management in 2013. Now, that's something that's an honor to be associated with you and listening to you, sir. Sir has been associated at IIT Roorkee as a professor from June 98 to June 2018, including his stints currently. And Professor Nangia is currently distinguished professor in BML Munjal University and also a professor of eminence at Guru Nanak Dev University, Amritsar. So in all, Sir is a teacher, advisor, trainer, consultant, and a mentor. So if I've missed out something, please do pardon me, and you can feel free to please add to the list. It's such an honor to welcome you, sir. And with this, I hand over the session to you, sir. And of course, I'll be there.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Upasana. Thank you for an elaborate introduction. I was pushed into NEP by the Vice Chancellor of NSUT when Lieutenant Governor of Delhi wanted feedback on the draft recommendation of Kasturi Rangan report from all governors and lieutenant governors, they being chancellors of universities across the country. So obviously, Lieutenant Governor of Delhi asked the Vice Chancellor of NSUT to give the comments on NEP draft, which was submitted by Dr. Kasturi Rangan. I happened to be traveling in Germany at that time. And I had to very quickly read through higher education portion, and I made some 5-6 comments which were received back here. When I came back to India, again, the Vice Chancellor told me different deans have given different suggestions. Please consolidate them. So again, I had to read all over again. So that was how I got into NEP higher education. And once I was invited to deliver a talk to the school level, principals. And in the process, I had to read the school level education also, which was a very good learning experience for me. Because there are many connecting points between school education and higher education, which if you have not read both, you will not be able to appreciate. I'm talking in particular about teachers' education. So that was that. So that was my introduction to NEP. And today what we are going to be talking will be in 2-3 parts. Part 1 will be about higher education in general. So that I'm taking up in the next slide. You can move to the next slide. This is like warming up, basic questions. If we don't know, we should know about these things. And then we'll go to NEP main. And then we will be talking about, of course, within that implementation of NEP. And finally, what is the role of the teachers as far as NEP understanding and implementation, both are concerned. My only request to all of you is please unmute yourself and stop me and ask me any question at any point of time. Without waiting, because even if I have not completed, don't bother, because if we don't interact and if there's no discussion, I think we are wasting time. So my first question is, any one of you can tell me what is education? I spent 5 more minutes on this slide and then we'll move on further. So anybody would like to say what is education?
Sir, giving some kind of systematic.
Akanksha, you're not audible. Can you speak loudly?
Sir, giving some kind of systematic instructions or let them students aware about the things which are going around.
Okay.
Is that something?
So one word you use is systematic, another word you have used is instruction. Anybody else?
Sir, it is sharing of knowledge.
Very good. It is sharing of knowledge. Very good. What else?
Sir, it is the action or the process.
Yeah.
It is the action or the process of educating.
Yeah. Okay. So you're using it as a verb that this is a process or this is an action. All right. Anybody else? Okay. We'll come to the point. Education has basically 4 pillars. First pillar is learning to learn. It is a lifelong learning. So it is that's where education is teaching learning process. Okay. So one is learning to learn, and you are educated all your life because you have to learn, relearn, unlearn, etc. The second part is knowledge. If it is not applied, is not good enough. So you should be able to do things. That's where the skills come. The third part is education should make you a good citizen. You should be a useful component to the society. And the last one, the fourth pillar, is that you should rediscover yourself. You have to learn to be. These are the 4 things. I think as we will go forward in slides, you will read that. Just go back previous year. So next question is, what is higher education? And how do you differentiate between school education and higher education?
So in terms of anything which is related to professional training or at degree level, we are calling it as higher education. And in school education, we are providing some basic education to these students related to a particular subject.
Very good.
Yeah.
So in school, basically it is foundational literacy and numeracy to start with. And then slowly as you grow into middle and secondary school, there's multiple subjects being taught to create awareness in general about number of subjects. It is only when you go to graduation that the scope narrows down of the number of subjects and the depth goes up. Okay. Can anybody describe it better than what I have described?
So maybe higher education is all about implementation, what you have learned.
See, one of the points of difference between school and higher education is that in school, it is dissemination of knowledge. It is dissemination of knowledge. So it's mostly from teacher to student. Whereas in higher education, especially when you do research, it is creation of knowledge. So as you grow higher in the education, I'm not talking about post-graduation, I'm talking about research in particular, leads to creation of knowledge. So that's the fundamental difference. When I came to academic world in 1998 from industry, I used to wonder the school teachers must be B.Ed. That was a prerequisite. And the university teachers are not supposed to be B.Ed. So this used to bug me down quite a lot. So I thought I must understand the difference between education and academics. There must be difference because B.Ed is required. So Bachelor of Education is something a school teacher is required. So can any one of you tell me what is the difference between education and academics? Academics terms is largely used in higher education, largely.
So I think academics is specialization based. What I can say. Academics is a specialization based, whereas education is general for each and every student.
Okay. Okay.
Thank
Yes. Anything else?
It may be when we develop our student to make them industry ready so that they become the part of the society and the system for the equitable and inclusive education.
Okay. Okay. So where is academics in that?
So education is something which is applied knowledge more. And whereas in the other cases like academic which is more constrained related to some theoretical knowledge, like aspects that we are learning in college and schools. But in education, when we are more concerned about the practical exposure and also about the awareness and the updated knowledge day-to-day basis.
I'm very happy, Taruna, you're coming closer to the point I was trying to make. And let me tell you one of the difference between education and academics. Education is holistic. Okay. Education starts right from the time of admission to enrollment to hostel to classroom to teaching methodology to registrar to mess to examination to result to final degree to convocation to migration certificate to transfer certificate. It's a whole life cycle of a student starting from admission to graduating out. So education is inclusive of administration, which may be done by registrar, deputy registrar, assistant registrar. It may include security guards. It may include parents. And you see, education is a system. Whereas an education, if your vice chancellor is there, he has to be an educationist. He may or may not be an academician. Okay. So in Haryana, many universities you see lieutenant generals and Faujis are being appointed as vice chancellor. And when we talk about academics, it is syllabus, it is course curriculum, it is making of syllabus, designing of course curriculum, writing of papers, conferences, research papers, refereed journals. Okay, all that which is very personal, which is very individualistic, which is very inward looking. So it is academic rigor which makes an academician. And when a person is more outward looking, extrovert, he is likely to be more successful as educationist. And it is not necessary that all academicians could be good educationists, and the vice versa may also be true. So very rarely you will come across persons who are both, who are good in both education as well as in academic. So because we are in the world of academics, we should know the difference. And this term is normally not used in the schools, it is used in the higher education. And now coming to higher education in pre-independent India, which is the first university which was established in India, which is operational till now.
So I may be wrong, I don't know, but I'm just taking a wild guess. Is it BHU? I don't know.
Your guess is really wild. You're not too wrong, but nevertheless you're wrong. BHU was in pre-independence, but before that, yes, any other guess?
So the Takshila is in Nalanda.
You see, let me tell you, number one, do you know the difference between Takshila and Nalanda?
No.
They were 600 years apart. There's one. You should know that. 600 years apart. Takshila is in a place which has gone into Pakistan. Nalanda is in a place which is in Bihar. Okay, but we are talking about the universities which are currently working. So which is the oldest? You took a good
Xavier,
yeah.
Xavier College 1949.
Sorry, which one?
Xavier College 1949.
No, number one, it is a college. We are talking about university. And there are things much older than 1949.
So someone is saying in the chat box, University of Calcutta.
Somebody wrote, Rajat Agrawal wrote University of Calcutta. Absolutely right. University of Calcutta is the oldest. And in the same year, you had University of Bombay, which followed after University of Calcutta, and that was followed by University of Madras. And why is it that all the three were opened in the same year? Please remember, these three were presidency towns. Calcutta was a presidency town, so was Bombay, so was Madras. You know the difference between residency and presidency. The place where, East India Company or Britishers had outsourced the administration was called residency, whether it was Lucknow or Bangalore or Mysore. And the place where they ruled directly was called presidency at that point of time. So these three universities were opened. They were the first three. Which was the fourth one? They were in 1858, which is the fourth one. Okay, I think we are running out of time, so I'll put it very directly. Fourth one was University of Punjab, and that was in Lahore, and that was opened in 1882. And the fifth one was Allahabad University, which was 1887. Okay, and it was much later that 1916 BHU came, 1920 AMU came, Aligarh Muslim University, 1922 Delhi University came. So these universities followed. In between, you had universities like University of Mysore, University of Patna. They were all in the region of 1918 to 1922, in between. Anyway, so we'll skip that. And in post-independence India, the number of universities suddenly boomed up after the year 2000. From 200 something universities, it jumped to more than 1,000 universities now. And at the time of independence, we had hardly 28 universities. So from 28, we went up to 200 something in the year 2000. And between 2000 and now, we have 1,043 universities in the country. When we talk about structure and system of higher education, I want to know from you guys, which is the highest body of education in our country? Which is the highest body of education in our country?
Yes,
Any
sorry.
guess? I'm not seeing participation.
So we lost our network signal for a second. Could you please ask the question once again? Yeah.
Which is the highest body of education in our country?
So I'll just rattle out maybe UGC, AICTE. Now, since I've given so many wrong answers, I'll give some more.
Are there other people not interested in the talk? Or
Sir, IITs?
Yeah, Nisha Yadav, hats off to you.
CAP.
What is CAP?
Central Advisory Board.
Wonderful. I'm so delighted. You know something very interesting. One of the biggest, recommendation of this NEP was to change the name of the ministry. Okay, and the name of the ministry was changed from MHRD to Education. So Ministry of Human Resource Development became Ministry of Education, and this is very interesting. Why did this happen? And what was the ministry doing in MHRD? So you should know these things because when Congress won the election in 1986 under Rajiv Gandhi, he had promised to people that he will combine the ministries which have synergy. Fortunately, unfortunately, same thing 2014 Narendra Modi also did. So 1986, when he promised that, so immediately after he became Prime Minister, the name of the ministry was changed from Education to MHRD. And very interestingly, nothing else changed. So there were two departments, higher education and school education. And third one was, adult literacy. And these departments continued all along. Nothing got changed except the name of the ministry. So the name of the ministry was wrong from 1986 till it was changed by the current government based on the recommendation of A. Kasturi Rangan. So this is one of the major things which was recommended in NEP. The second major thing which was recommended by Kasturi Rangan report was to restructure and reform CABE, Central Advisory Board of Education. So next to the Ministry of Education, this is the highest body in the country, and which takes care of school education as well as higher education. And there is an advisory body where the buck stops. And what happened to reorganization or reformation? Nothing. The last meeting of this CAB was held in the year 2019 as a special meeting taken by the Minister Ramesh Pokhriyal Nishank. So forget about reconstitution, even the meeting has not taken place after 2019. So there is something very interesting. On one hand, the name of the ministry got changed immediately. On the other hand, the major recommendation of reorganizing CAB was not done. So when we talk about the system and structure at the governance level, we have UGC, University Grant Commission, which directly takes care of governance in the university level. And on the other side, you have AICTE, All India Council of Technical Education, which takes care of all such institutions which are not university, okay, and which are giving technical education. And technical education in India includes engineering, management, pharmacy, hotel management. These are the items which are covered by AICTE, which are called technical education. And mind it, technical education is different from professional education. And in India, when we talk about professional education, it means law and medicine, legal education and medical education. That is what comes under professional education as against technical education. So this is largely the system at the top. And then you have regulators like NAC, National Accreditation Council, and NBA, National Board of Accreditation. These are accreditation agencies, but they are not exactly regulatory bodies. So this is at the national level. You do have institutions like NCERT for the schools. You have EDSIL, Education Consultant of India, that is a public sector undertaking under Ministry of Education. But when you come down to the state government level, in the state government level, everywhere there's a directorate of technical education or directorate of school education or directorate of higher education or just directorate of education. So this is headed by one of the senior PCS officers who may or may not have become IAS. And this is different from the ministry because interestingly in the state government, there's a minister, but there's no ministry. Ministry is always called department. So this will be called Department of Education, where secretary, joint secretary, additional secretary, etc. work. It's not called ministry, it's called department, which is very interesting, whereas minister is called minister. So this is run through directorate. Then you come to the district level, you have district education officer. You come to the block level, you have block education officer, etc. So this is how the system goes through. This is what is the structure, and this is the system of higher education in India. Can I request you to go to the next slide and start reading it, please? Yeah.
Yes, just unmuting myself. So the next slide talks about learning the treasure within. Learning the Treasure Within, which the International Commission on Education for the 21st Century, chaired by Jacques Delors, submitted to UNESCO in 1996. The report argued that education throughout life was based on 4 pillars, which are the first one, learning to know, which is acquiring a body of knowledge and learning how to learn so as to benefit from the opportunities education provides throughout life. The second one is learning to do, acquiring not only an occupational skill, but also the competence to deal with many situations and work in teams, and a package of skills that enables one to deal with the various challenges of working life. The third one, learning to live together, developing an understanding of other people and an appreciation of interdependence in the spirit of respect for the values of pluralism, mutual understanding, and peace. And the fourth one, learning to be, that's developing one's personality and being able to act with autonomy, judgment, and personal responsibility while ensuring that education does not disregard any aspect of the potential of a person, which encompasses of memory, reasoning, aesthetic sense, physical capacities, and of course, communication skills.
Yeah, carry on.
Yeah. Should I go to the next
Yeah,
slide?
please carry on.
Okay, I should carry on. All right. Levels of education are further defined as students must develop not only cognitive skills, but both foundational skills of literacy and numeracy, and higher order cognitive skills such as critical thinking and problem solving skills, but also social and emotional skills, also referred to as soft skills, including cultural awareness and empathy, perseverance and grit, teamwork and leadership, among others. These are the levels of education. The challenges of higher education may be defined as access.
You see on the left hand side, what I have written is at the national level or at the macro level, access has to be provided in the remote areas where students should be able to study, and this is more true for the primary education. Even for higher education, like more recently, they are creating IITs, IIMs, and NITs and triple ITs across the country. Is based on the spread in various states and various areas. So access is something very important. The second debatable point now is affordability, because the education is becoming costlier, including in IIMs and other places where people have to shell out a lot of money. So affordability is the next major challenge with the government of India. Inclusion includes, physically challenged people, gender related issues, age related issues. So everybody has to be included to be given, education. Quality was not included earlier policies, but in this particular policy, based on Sustainability Development Goal SDG 4, the quality word has been included in the current policy. And funding, of course, is a major challenge. I was reading our total expenditure on education is between 3.5 and 4% of GDP, which in 1986 was told to go up to 6%, which has been repeatedly told to us, including in Kasturi Rangan committee report, that it should be 6% of GDP, but funding is lacking. And that's the reason, one of the reasons that the mushroom growth of private educational institutions. Now, if you look at the right side, these are the challenges which are to be faced by the individual higher education institutions. One is admission. What should be the basis of admission? So this is being looked after by UGC, and COET is coming and new things are happening. Second is fees. The policy says the fees could be charged, which can be decided by the educational institution based on the cost. So for example, if your hostels are air conditioned, you can charge more fees. That is what is stipulated in the policy. But the upper limit will be decided by the government of India. And economy of scale means you cannot have institutions having very, very few students where the per student expenditure is huge. It has to have large institutions, and where the Kasturi Rangan committee says it should not be less than 3,000 in every single institution. Then faculty is a major challenge. Our salaries are not very regulated. Teacher salary, particularly in school, are very poor. And in higher education system also, a lot of people are still struggling with 6th pay commission. Many of the people are not getting even DA properly. And all that is also affecting our teacher-pupil ratio, TPR, teacher-pupil ratio. Then comes the governance issue. Now, governance varies from state to state. For example, in many states like Haryana and like Uttaranchal, they have something called Board of Management. Now, Board of Management is a body between Academic Council and Board of Governors. So that model is different. So it varies from state to state. And governance has been very much addressed in the NEP. And what NEP had, what Dr. Kasturi Rangan had suggested was to completely do away with UGC, ICT, all these bodies, and just have 4 independent verticals. One for funding, one for regulation, one for accreditation, and the 4th one was for academic framework. Unfortunately, when the policy was presented finally, PMO did not agree, and they decided to have one single body under which there will be 4 pillars. So they have reorganized this in the NEP 2020, which came out as against what Kasturi Rangan had suggested. So that was governance. Coming to autonomy. Any one of you, what is autonomy?
Autonomy.
Yeah.
independence, freedom, liberty to do work themselves.
Very good. So can you give some example?
Sir, it may be the college is running their own course. That course will be called as the autonomous course, wherein the rules, the
Very good.
regulations, the
Very good.
guidelines. Thank you.
Very good. Anything else? Anybody else?
It's a single ownership.
What is that? Can you explain that?
So like all the things which will be run in the hands of a one person. I mean, in the hands of a single entity, not in the democratically way.
I'm
It's
sorry. I'm sorry.
autocrat.
Autonomy word here is not used in that context. I'm sorry. It's just, that's not the right interpretation here. What you're telling is right as a dictionary meaning, but not here.
Okay.
So autonomy, what has been described by you guys, is basically academic autonomy. And academic autonomy means that you are free to decide your own syllabus. You're free to decide your own syllabus. You may have your own teaching methodology, pedagogy. Those decisions you take. They are not imposed upon you. Okay, so that is what is academic autonomy. Then there is administrative autonomy. For example, institutes of national importance, which are 135 in number, which include IITs, NITs, IIMs, NIDs, AIMS, all these are called Institute of National Importance. They are not governed by UGC and AIC. They are directly under Ministry of Education. So that means they have wonderful autonomy, and that is administrative autonomy. So that means there's no interference of any kind. UGC can't dictate terms. AICT can't dictate terms to these 135 institutions. That's a huge administrative autonomy. Third is financial autonomy. This is where sometimes when you hear the word school, like in JNU, there's school of this, school of that, London School of Business, Harvard Business School. So when you hear the word school as against department, normally schools have more autonomy, including financial autonomy. That means your HOD gets X amount of money, then HOD is not asked question how you are spending it this way or that way. The money is given to you for the year, and it's HOD's discretion to spend the money the manner HOD wants. So autonomy can be described in three components. Academic autonomy, which is what you described, and rightly so, most important to us. Second is administrative autonomy, which is very important for the people who run the show. And third is financial autonomy. So these are various items. Next slide, please.
So, higher
Please read
education in India, a backdrop. Universal and compulsory education for all children in the age group of 6 to 14 years was a cherished dream of the government of independent India. This is evident from the fact that it is incorporated as a directive principle of state policy in Article 45 of the Constitution of India. By 86th Amendment in 2002 to the Constitution, education was made a fundamental right. This was done by inserting right to education, Article 21A, which states, the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age 6 to 14 years in such a manner as the state may by law determine. The 86th Amendment provided for a follow-up legislation for Right to Education Act 2009. According to the Constitution of India, Fundamental Duties, Article 51AK, it shall be the duty of every citizen of India who is a parent or a guardian to provide opportunities for education to his child, as the case may be, what between the age of 6 and 14 years.
So these are legal entitlements basically, and this again is very interesting. Please read out.
Yes. The concurrent list, which is in the 7th schedule in Constitution of India, includes the power to be considered by both the union and state government. 42nd Amendment Act 1976 shifted 5 items, including education, from state to concurrent list. This is listed at number 25 and mentions education, including technical education, medical education, and universities, of course, subject to certain provisions. These entries provide exclusive jurisdictional competence to the union government in the specified areas like certain universities and institutions of technical education declared by Parliament to be of national importance, or agencies that determine standards for institutions of higher education and of scientific research.
So this is the legal side of the story. These are just numbers. You can just glance through the numbers of universities and colleges and enrollment. So from 1858 to 1931, in 1931, there were less than 1 lakh enrollment in the country.
Right.
That kind of scenario. Next slide.
So this is in 47-48. We can see enrollment is around 2 lakh, 18-19, 374. The figure has risen. This is the history of universities. The oldest university in Morocco in 859 AD, University of Bologna in Italy in 1088, University of Oxford in 1096 to 1167, and of course Harvard University is the oldest in USA from 1636 to 1650.
You are reading, just go back, you're reading 2 years,
Right.
1636 and 1650, or 1096 and 1116. That's very interesting. The first year is the year of establishment, and the next year given is the year of granting of charter to the university.
Okay.
Charter to the university means that it can grant degrees. Charter was earlier issued by religious people, like even this University of Morocco had started as a madrasa. Okay, so later on, even in Europe, it came from the church. And when you look at University of Oxford, it was followed in less than 100 years by University of Cambridge, which was followed by 1300 something by University of Paris. So that was the time of rise of universities across Europe. And when you hear the term like Oxbridge means combined Oxford and or Cambridge. So if somebody belongs to that level of either Oxford or Cambridge, then Oxbridge is the terminology used. And this Harvard University is the oldest and very famous for what? Can you tell me? Of course, all of you will say business school. Harvard Business School, all of you know. But other than that, what? Yes, Aarti.
Sir, I really don't have any idea.
Taruna. Rajat Agrawal has written a beautiful thing, case study method. That's wonderful. Rajat, can you go further from this? You have hit the nail on the head. Harvard University is known for case study method. And when we say case study method, it's very interesting. What it means is, please remember, theory takes you to practice, and as well, practice takes you to theory. That's how case study is evolved. And Harvard is known for 3 schools. You all know Harvard Business School. Another is Harvard Medical School, which is the best in the world. And the third is Harvard Law School. These are the 3 best schools in the world coming from Harvard University. It's not just Harvard Business School. Next slide, please. Yeah, please read out.
Yeah, so University of Calcutta in 1857, University of Bombay again in 1857, University of Madras in 1857, Punjab University 1882.
Punjab University is very interesting. The spelling is not P-U-N, it is P-A-N. That's number 1. Second thing is, this is the only university which is a state university where the chancellor is not the governor of the state. But in case of Punjab University, it is Vice President of India, which is a very unique thing. Yeah.
Allahabad University 1887, BHU 1916, Aligarh Muslim University 1920, and then University of Delhi in 1922.
I was surprised to see recently the name of Allahabad University being added as one of the institutes of national importance recently in the website of Ministry of Education, which was not there earlier. Yeah.
So that's the landscape of higher education institutions. There were 1043 universities, 4243 colleges, and 11779 standalone institutions. There are 522 general, 177 technical, 63 agricultural and allied, 66 medical, 23 law, 12 Sanskrit and 11 language universities, and rest 145 universities are of other categories. Number of teachers is 1503156 and number of students is 38.5 million.
Next.
Landscape of higher education to continuance is We have 48 central universities. Central open universities 1 in number. Institutional of national importance 135, like Sir mentioned. State public university 386. Institutions under State Legislature Act of 5. State open universities of 14. State private universities 327. State private open university, that's 1. Deemed university government 36. Deemed university government aided 10. Private 80. Grand total is 1043.